Hello, hello. Sao Paulo, how are we doing today? All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm very excited to be here today. You just heard from an excellent group of panelists about kind of future opportunities on Lightning. Taj, Alex, Connor, I think did a great job of giving an overview. I just want to, before I get started, thank Satsconf and Lucas de Ferreira in particular for having us all here today. I think this is a great crowd, great exciting, and looking to dive in to talk about the next frontiers of Lightning with you. So the way this presentation is going to go is, we're first going to talk about kind of where we are today in the Lightning Network and a little bit about how we've got here, and I think put a little bit of perspective about kind of where we're going. And then we're going to talk about, where we see the next frontiers of growth. And not all of this is, to do with Lightning in particular, but is more about integrating Lightning with additional protocols and some of the productization of Lightning we expect to see that, Alex Leishman in particular touched on in the last panel. And then finally, we're going to talk about, building together. Kind of, how do we expect the community, the companies, the ecosystem of Lightning Network startups to build together and, bring about the end result we all want, which is Bitcoin as a global reserve currency, billions of people holding and transacting in Bitcoin, and, a world free from centralization in finance in particular. So let's dive in first with kind of where we are today. And I think, nothing shows it better than this chart. Showing the all-time capacity of the Lightning Network, how much capital has been allocated to public channels for routing. I think my favorite part of this chart is you look here, 2018, when, Taj was first working on the Lightning Network, the number was 0, right? And that's only 5 years ago. We had a little bit of a bump in kind of 2019 and 2020. Those of you that were around, that was kind of the Ellen Big era, when Ellen Big, decided to YOLO 300 BTC into the network. And then there was, a flat period from kind of 2019 until right around the El Salvador announcement in 2021. And that period was when I first got, involved in the Lightning Network. And this was a period of, developers heads down, just building, not listening to the noise, not listening to people that said the Lightning was going to never work. They were just building and developing, and then all of a sudden the world woke up to what they had been producing, right? And all of a sudden you see this big exponential increase from 2021 to 2023. And so I think there's a very important lesson there that, focusing on the fundamentals of the protocol, focusing on, the building of what really matters with product, is where we need to be focused, and the big returns will come. And so I think you can see some of that qualitatively from some of the news that came out this year. So some of my I write the Lightning Labs monthly newsletter for those that are unfamiliar. I'm the head of business development at Lightning Labs, and so I'm always keeping track of what are the biggest pieces of news. What can I communicate to the community about how much we're growing. So this was, a great report that Alex touched on in the last panel. River Research reported, a lower bound number of 12x growth over the last 2 years in routed, Lightning transactions. And very importantly, this doesn't count direct transactions between direct peers, and it doesn't count, private channels either. So, it could be much higher than that, 15, 20x, the multiple could be significant. But I think that's a really important number, and we saw that in the last chart. Right? Big exponential growth since 2021. I thought this was another really important stat from that same report. Lightning native startups raised $429 million in 2022 collectively, right? Almost $500 million of capital raised by the Lightning community, which is just huge for, pursuing continuous growth, new building, new opportunities. And again, in comparison to 2018, only 10 million was raised, right? So that's significant growth. Additionally, 2 really big announcements this year. Binance, biggest exchange in the world, launched their Lightning integration, which was huge. Coinbase announced that they will be integrating soon, probably sometime early next year, if I had to guess. That's huge validation for the protocol and something that, I've personally spent a lot of time working on getting more and more exchanges onto Lightning, and so seeing kind of the 2 biggest ones finally, bend the knee, so to speak, I think was really validating for the protocol. And then a couple like specific statistics. LN Markets, for those that are unfamiliar, they're a Lightning native exchange where you can, trade, open positions, close positions, and withdraw all over Lightning. They hit $1 billion in cumulative trading volume just a couple weeks ago. It's a really big milestone. I'm really excited for them. Earlier this summer, I thought this was amazing. Zebedee, who builds, Lightning gaming software, gaming SDKs. They have a great wallet for getting kind of the gaming community interested in Lightning. They just launched 100 new games over the summer, which again is I think just like a really cool demonstration of scale and how far we've come. And then finally, this is a really big one, Voltage, who offers a hosted node solution for developers and for users. If you don't want to run on your own hardware, but you still want to hold your own keys, you can use Voltage. They launched a partnership with Google Cloud, who's a really big name, and again, I think really validating. And so, remember a couple of these, because on this next slide, as I was building these, I went back to the first newsletter that I wrote in 2020 to kind of see what was some of the biggest news then. And so I think this is pretty interesting. In the fall of 2020, only 3 years ago, L&D released Wumbo channel support, which meant that prior to 2020, you weren't allowed to have channels bigger than 16 million sats. Right now we have channels that are 5 BTC, 10 BTC. There was intentional limiting on the size of the network just 3 years ago, right? We talked about River just releasing this great report and showing all this, venture capital that have been raised by Lightning startups. In 2020, Zap, which builds the Strike wallet, Jack Mallers, and River announced their seed funding rounds. Their very first, just getting started, 3.5 and 5.7 mil, which is very small in comparison to 429. I think that's a cool thing to put in perspective. In fall of 2020, Kraken announced their plans to integrate Lightning support. They were the first really, really big global exchange, but they didn't actually ship Lightning support for another 1.5 years or something like that. It took them a very long time. And then, again, I just thought that these were cool, that the symmetry of, this was in my first newsletter in 2020 versus, the big news that came up this year. So LN Markets, remember, they just announced $1 billion of total trading volume. In fall of 2020, they reported their first 10 million. Right, so 100x in the last 3 years. Zebedee, who just launched 100 games this summer, they had just shipped their gaming-focused wallet, the very first version, in the fall of 2020. So that's tremendous growth and advancement from them. And Voltage, who just announced a partnership with Google Cloud, right? They had just launched their business and they started accepting their first customers. So I think it's really important to keep in perspective. We've seen a tremendous amount of growth over the last 3 years, and the momentum of this community and the solutions, the people that are building in the Lightning Network is really, really strong. However, we have a very, very long ways to go. I think when you compare some of these numbers versus the fiat systems that we're looking to disrupt, right? The centralized systems like SWIFT for international bank transfers. SWIFT facilitates $150 trillion per year. It's a big number with a T. And you can see kind of the currency breakdown. About half is USD, about a quarter is the euro, and then kind of smaller currencies from there. Bitcoin not on the list. Additionally, payment card volume from Visa, MasterCard, UnionPay, some of these other card networks topped $40 trillion worldwide in 2020. Again, very big number. And about half of that is debit card payments, which Lightning directly competes with. And again, from the River report, did Lightning top $1 billion? It's debatable. We're about around $1 billion a year right now. So that's we have a long ways to go, despite all this momentum, despite all the growth we've seen. I think the optimistic lens on this is there's tremendous upside to getting involved right now. There is tremendous upside to start building on the Lightning Network, to start integrating with the Lightning Network, because we expect, this thing, if we're going to be disrupting SWIFT and the payment cards and all of these other analog, fiat centralized payment networks, right? We got 170,000x to go, which is pretty good. So, definitely a great time to get involved. I think, there's a lot of companies in the space that are well funded. There's a lot of companies in the space that are hiring. There's a lot of companies in the space that are prepared for this next bull market to, really onboard new users, onboard new volume, and take advantage of being in the spotlight, because we've been doing a lot of building over the last 3 years, and I think are really well prepared for the next state of growth. So with that kind of table being set, we've come a long way. We still have tons of upside to go. The community is very strong and is ready to take this next step of growth. The next part of this talk is going to be about where specifically do we see a lot of this next cycle of growth coming from. And I think, Elizabeth Stark, the CEO of Lightning Labs, has always said that Lightning will primarily grow from 2 main areas. The first is kind of inclusion of emerging markets users into the global financial community, right? And I think, here's a list of logos of a ton of companies in the space, BIPA in Brazil in particular, shout out to BIPA, who are focused on inclusion of emerging markets users and bringing them into a global permissionless financial network in Bitcoin. And the second one is enabling payments use cases that were previously impossible, right? And so I think we have, again, a number of companies up here, many of whom are here today that we're really excited about, that are focused on micropayments use cases, programmatic payments, payments for content creators, payments for musicians, chat over Lightning, social media, et cetera, that are really cool payments use cases. So I think there's a lot of inspiration for new builders up on this chart. There's also a lot of companies that are hiring engineers and business development and marketing professionals up here, and so really encourage folks to get involved. And so these next frontiers of growth, right? What tools do we expect people to use in order to go and attack these 2 growth areas? And so I think number 1 is the new Taproot Assets protocol, which Lightning Labs just released the first mainnet launch for just a few weeks ago. Yay, congrats, exciting, woo! Really pumped to get that out. The goal of this is making Lightning a multi-asset network. And if you remember, I'll talk about this a little bit more, but still, although we're all Bitcoiners, the US dollar is still the global reserve currency. And so making the dollar compete with Bitcoin on Bitcoin's turf, right, where Bitcoin shines in the Lightning Network and on-chain, is kind of the goal of Taproot Assets, rather than making Bitcoin compete with the dollar in the existing financial system. AI agents, bringing about the machine payable web, really excited about machine-to-machine payments, and saw some really cool examples of this in the Sats hackathon over the last 2 days. And then finally, open social media. So connecting with protocols, not within companies. And so this is protocols like Nostr, again, created by the great Brazilian protocol wizard, Fiat Jeff. Really excited to see continued growth and experimentation in Nostr. And so first, Taproot Assets. Why? I think there's just no denying it, although, again, we're all Bitcoiners. Rapidly settling, low-fee stablecoin transactions have product market fit. They just do. And I think kind of these 2 charts are really interesting, in that you can see active addresses where Bitcoin is in red and Tether on Tron, boo, Tron, Justin Sun, ooh, is in green. You can just see, the active addresses have gotten to be about even. It's about 50-50 over the last couple years, as more and more users have been onboarded into Tron. And I think, if you look at just transaction volume in dollar terms, Tron actually, USDT on Tron actually now is doubled BTC on-chain volume. And so I think, as Bitcoiners, we need to take a long, hard look at this and think about, why is it that instead of using, the secure, decentralized protocol that we all believe in and that we all support with, the only trustless asset in existence, why do people keep wanting to use Tether on, Justin Sun's laptop, which is basically Tron? Why do they prefer that instead? And I think it just happens to be, the convenience and stability of the dollar, and also Tron's speed and, low fees in settlement. And again, just want to reiterate, Taproot Assets, the purpose of this protocol is to bring assets like Tether back to Bitcoin, right? So that Bitcoiners and Bitcoin infrastructure and Bitcoin software can get the benefits of all of this growth that we see from Tether on Tron instead of the benefits going to Tron. And so, Lightning supports one currency today, Bitcoin, but our competitors, Visa, Swift, MasterCard, et cetera, they support 180 currencies, right? And so leveling that playing field by letting developers issue additional currencies and additional assets on Bitcoin and Lightning is kind of the why behind Taproot assets. So what do we expect? Like I just said, primarily financial assets. Stablecoins, I think rewards points, airline points as an example, or a good example. Hopefully, no just shitcoins, although, who knows, people will do what they'll do. Who are we building this for? I think emerging market users and the companies that serve them, people that want the dollar and don't have access to the dollar right now. And importantly, as they use the dollar, because it will be in Bitcoin infrastructure and in Lightning wallets, the ability to transition from stablecoins to Bitcoin will be the ease of making a Lightning payment. I think having that friction of going from the asset that maybe they want right now to the asset that they need in Bitcoin is really important. Having that friction be very low with Taproot assets. And when can you start building? Today. We already have companies that I'll highlight a little bit here, building with our software TapD 0.3. That was the first mainnet launch that allows for on-chain minting, sending, and receiving of assets on the Bitcoin network. We have Tiramisu Wallet, which is a web wallet for minting assets and sending them around. Nostr Assets is a really cool project that's working to integrate Taproot asset support with Nostr, the decentralized social media protocol, and much more coming along. The community is really getting started and building a lot of products, and we expect to see a lot more here. So if you're interested, if this is something that you think there's potential in, which I certainly think there's huge potential in it, there's nothing stopping you. Get started today. Come find me after this, and I'd be happy to talk about specifically what I hope people build. And I think just highlighting a couple of recent posts. You can see this first one from Lightning Labs was kind of our big mainnet announcement. Just really excited to get this out into the developer community and let people start building products in production. And secondly, Paulo Arduino, although this isn't a signed letter of intent, this is the CEO of Tether, very excited about what we're shipping. And so I think this gets me excited, and if it gets me excited, I think it should get you excited as well. Next, AI agents. Why do we think AI agents are a good target for Lightning payments and Lightning developers? The machine payable web is always something that the architects of the internet thought was going to happen, right? There's an HTTP 402 payment required error code that was built into the HTTP spec in the 90s. And it's never been leveraged. It's never been used because there wasn't a digitally native payment mechanism. There wasn't digitally native currency to really leverage it. But now, thanks to Lightning, we have one. We have internet native money. We have internet native currency. And now we can have machines paying machines for doing computation, for doing tasks. And now, of course, we also have AI agents. And so I think this was a really cool announcement from our CTO, Lalu Osuntukan, also known as Roast Beef. He's half man, half beef. In 2023, the bots pay you, right? We've seen tons of problems with spam on social networks and social media and the internet generally. Imagine if in order to get your attention, the bots had to pay you some Satoshis first, right? And actually price your attention properly. So, we released some cool software tools over the summer that will let developers build kind of exactly that experience, give AI agents, Lightning wallets, and allow you to take back control of your time and your attention. And I think this was, a really well-stated tweet as well. This AI for All hackathon over the summer, opened up a bunch of new startup ideas at the intersection of Bitcoin and LLMs. And I think this really cool one that I highlighted at the bottom, with Lightning, you can create on-demand compute paid at the time of execution, right? And I think that's a really important lesson if you think about digital compute like AWS or like Netflix serving up video or like one of these, AI LLM companies. AI compute is a digital good. You are, burning some GPU cycles, you're burning some energy, and you are selling the result of that to the person who requested it. Once you burn the energy, once you burn the compute cycle, it's gone, right? You can't get it back. It has been spent. You have incurred a cost. And so if all of a sudden the person that you're selling to, they default on their payment, they defraud you on your payment, they use a credit network that does not have the integrity and of the Lightning Network, you could be out of money because your compute cost is gone. And so I think there's a lot of potential here for Lightning's real-time settlement to even out the playing field and allow these compute providers to really tightly align their marginal costs and marginal revenues. So, what do we expect to see? Machines with Lightning wallets engaging in data commerce. Really excited about this. Who do we expect to do it? AI agents that are looking to purchase training data and servers with data to sell. I think this is a really clear two-sided marketplace and very exciting. Again, you can get started today. There are people doing this today. We've released a bunch of tools at Lightning Labs to help people get started. And I think some of my favorite examples, number one is GPUtopia. So GPUtopia is a new internet native, Lightning native marketplace for GPU compute, where if you have GPUs and you want to monetize them, you can think of it like Airbnb for your GPU. You put it up on this website and say, I will let you use my GPU if you'll pay me X amount of sats per minute over Lightning. And so I think this is a really cool marketplace where anybody, anywhere around the world can sign up if they have compute, and they can sell their GPU cycles on the open marketplace to AI developers or anybody that wants this type of compute. And in years past, in 2016, 2017, the ICO era, right, there were a bunch of shitcoin projects that tried to do this and tried to say, if you want to have this market that works, you need to have my token and blah, 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 blah. None of them worked because of the token. I think this one has a chance because it leverages Bitcoin, it leverages Lightning, it's built in the proper way with the proper incentives. So really excited about that. Matador is a developer tool that allows you to, if you already have an API key to an AI service, you can sell it on the marketplace, sell access to it on the marketplace for Lightning as well. Makes it really easy for developers to leverage some of Lightning Labs' tools and build new products and services, again, to help you kind of better monetize this AI development wave. And there's a handful of other tools on here that I think are really exciting and are available for developers to start making progress with and building products with today. So again, this is GPUtopia. They've done a really cool thing where in order to develop their site, they are opening it up to bounties. So you don't have to wait to get hired by GPUtopia. You can just get started building on these bounties today and start building out this platform of the future for monetization of AI compute over Lightning. And so really excited for people to dive in and start making progress there. And then finally, open social media. I think this is, particularly, we've seen tons and tons of problems with the Web 2 centralized social media model over the last several years. They're struggling with monetization, they're struggling with privacy, they're struggling with censorship. They just have gotten too big and are starting to hit the limits of that bigness because they are centralized companies, right? So you see, after our fearless leader, Elon Musk, took over Twitter and renamed it X, their revenues have plummeted, their advertisers have left. X is, not the product that it used to be, very sadly. Reddit killed their API access and, made a whole bunch of people very upset all around the world as subreddits go dark and the application ecosystem, was really hurt. And even, I thought this was hilarious, these American airlines, Delta and Southwest, have banned TikTok for their employees because they're worried about, security and, the centralized control of TikTok by, the Chinese government. So there's all of these problems in the Web 2 social media space. Nobody's happy with the state of Web 2 social media. But if these companies were instead built on an open protocol, right, a level playing field for everybody to compete on and to collaborate on, a lot of these problems would disappear. And so, enter Nostr. I think Nostr, as, again, hopefully everybody is very familiar with it. It is a Brazilian invention and a very cool one. Andre Neves from Zebedee, who I believe is talking later today, and Fiat Jeff, take the Nostr protocol, go after application devs, go after the users that are sick of this worsening, decaying experience with these Web 2 social media companies. Get get started today, again, for the third time. We have the tooling, we have the abilities. All we're looking for is just more developers, more people taking shots on goal, more people building products and solving problems for real end users. And how, I think there's a number of different solutions here. Nostr, if folks are familiar with Web 5 from TBD, that's another interesting idea. Lightning address, of course, I think being able to bring your own wallet by just requiring people to get a Lightning address rather than making people download a full node and get their own channel, it really unlocks the user experience for applications. And so that's kind of, what the third frontier of growth that we expect to see for the Lightning Network is open social media. And so, in closing, for Nostr, Nostrasia was this week in Hong Kong, I believe. And I thought this was a really great quote. Jack Dorsey, founder of Twitter before Elon Musk bought it, and Edward Snowden, famous for exposing a bunch of NSA spying and centralized control of social media companies, had this great quote that if Bitcoin existed before Twitter started, we would have had a much better option and a much better path and removed at least one of the single points of failure. And that's what makes me so excited about Nostr. If Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, one of the most famous and successful social media companies on the planet, is saying he wished he would have had Nostr to build his company on instead of the way he built it, I think we should probably listen. I think he's on to something. And so finally, with those three big opportunities highlighted, with kind of the table set about, we really are excited about the next cycle of growth for Lightning. We're really excited about bringing new people in, getting new ideas, seeing a bit of a Bitcoin renaissance of building. How do we expect this building together to grow? And I think my favorite thing about building in Bitcoin is that although there is competition amongst companies for talent, there's competition for users, there's competition for revenue, at the end of the day, we're all on Team Bitcoin, right? We're all pursuing the same goal of making Bitcoin the global reserve currency, and so we're all collaborating in a sense on building the strong foundation of the financial system of the future. So the keys to success: 1, build in public, collaborate in the open, no backroom deals, no New York meetings for the folks that are familiar with the SegWit drama. Build in public, collaborate in the open. There's always people looking to help if you build in public. 2, build for real users. Solve their real problems, even if they're not human. AI agents are users too. Go and talk to your users and build real solutions that really solve their problems. And 3rd, and I'm not really sure why my numbering is messed up, build on Bitcoin and Lightning, right? This is a wave, an orange wave that is sweeping across the planet and building on this infrastructure that has these network effects and continues to grow and grow and grow is just a tailwind that you just won't find elsewhere, right? If you're trying to build your own blockchain and onboard your own users and convince people that your token is money, you've already lost the plot. It's not going to happen, right? Build on Bitcoin and Lightning. We have a great thing going. We have tons of momentum, and there's no reason to try and start your own wave with that. And so with that, that's it. Thank you, everybody, for having me today. Very excited to be here and very excited about this next cycle of growth for the Lightning Network.